Ah, the sounds of the workshop in fall, Michelle. Now today we're going to be building an old-timey signpost that a traveler on horseback might find on his way into Sleepy Hollow.
Gonna be fun.
You can bet your saddlebags. This signpost would have been placed at a fork in the road sometime in the 1700s to help weary travelers navigate their way. And so it's something you might come upon if you happen to be, say, an itinerant school teacher.
Or a mysterious highwayman.
Right, or if you're Johnny Depp or Jeff Goldblum or Ed Begley Jr., you know, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm inserting magnets into the post is so that the signs don't have to be permanent. They can be moved, adjusted, and switched around or just removed entirely.
I love that idea.
Well, I do too.
Yeah.
I just wasn't sure it would work.
I guess we'll see.
This signpost is also supposed to look like something a farmer or a local laborer of that time period crafted by hand with traditional tools and materials.
But craftsmen back then didn't have laser cutters.
Well, no, they did. Well, no, you're right. You're right. They didn't. So these signs, while designed by me, come out of the laser looking very sharp and just a little too precise.
Like a machine made them.
Exactly. Which is why, much like the Dutch farmers of the Hudson Valley, I got out my Dremel rotary tool and my PPE gear.
Just like the Dutch workmen of the 1700s.
Exactly like them. And I put my back into it. I really put my back into it. I sat there in that padded chair and I pushed that power button until these signs looked like they were hand cut from an old plank of barnwood.
I imagine you really broke a sweat.
You have no idea. Anyway, now we have the magnets in the post and the corresponding magnets in the signs, and odd bodkins.
It works.
Gadzooks. We did it.
Yes.
We have proof of concept. And so now we can move forward. And it's about time because this project should have been done before Halloween and we just ran out of time.
Wait, I thought we're not still doing this, right?
What are we not doing
We did
anymore?
6 videos in October.
Yeah,
I didn't even
it was
think
rough.
that was possible.
I know.
And I think we have Halloween covered.
Well, you may think that, Michelle.
Yes.
But the old calendar on the wall tells me this Sleepy Hollow signpost
I really thought you forgot.
is a Halloween leftover.
Halloween leftovers, leftover from Halloween.
It's been a while, hasn't it?
I think I'm going to blame a few commenters for that, as well as a few of the Patreon supporters who must love torturing me.
They literally reminded me that we hadn't done a Halloween leftover this year.
Yeah.
And in the case of our Patreon people, they donate their hard-earned money so that I can torment you with my Halloween power ballad.
Yeah, thanks.
Every year.
Much appreciated.
Like clockwork.
Well, you had better appreciate them because they're the reason I put up with
I
you.
do. I appreciate everybody who watches our videos.
Good.
Now, I used a couple of homemade tools to texture the air-dry clay on the space.
That little texture roller is just more air-dry clay with some tiny rocks stuck in it.
Yeah, and we use that a lot. And I made a tool out of craft sticks to simulate the divots that horseshoes might make as they pass by this sign.
You mentioned Ed Begley Jr.
Good paper dolly cutting men are hard to find.
And I'm pretty sure his version of Sleepy Hollow is my favorite.
Oh, it's definitely at the top of my list.
We watch it every year.
Yeah, because it's star-studded and the writing is hilarious.
The comedy never stops. But somehow they tell the whole story and it ends up being spooky too.
That was a Shelley Duvall Tall Tales and Legends episode.
Yep.
The first one, I think. Starring Ed Begley Jr. as Ichabod, Tim Thomerson as Brom Bones.
So funny.
Yeah. Beverly D'Angelo as Katrina, and Charles Durning as the narrator Dofu Van Tassel.
If I ever run into Ed Begley or Tim Thomerson,
Like at the shop and stage?
yeah, this is all I'm going to be talking about.
Yeah, just talk about that one 40-year-old production.
Yes.
I'm sure that's all they ever talk about, too.
Right. After painting the clay to look like dirt, we laid down a patch of static grass.
Yeah, and the next step was to plant some fall foliage to make it look like this signpost sits just at the edge of an autumn wood or field.
Yeah.
You know, for those taller stalks, I did drill out some holes in the clay to anchor the plants. But with the shorter, smaller tufts, I basically glued them to all the existing grass.
And that's the same watered down glue we used to anchor the static grass to begin with.
Yeah.
The same thing we did with the leaves.
Yes, the leaves, which we found out are just birch seeds.
Dyed birch seeds.
Right. I don't know if birch seeds on their own are easy to find
Right.
or cheaper to buy or simple to dye. But if you build dioramas, we're going to pass that information on to you.
Yeah.
Buy some land with birch trees and you're set for life. All that routing and drilling I did earlier, like a Dutch craftsman,
Right.
was so that I could feed some wiring through the bottom of this base for an LED. It's just very simple lighting. There's nothing fancy here,
good.
but I'm hoping some subtle lighting will add a little bit of atmosphere to this scene.
We sculpted some pumpkins and gourds to scatter around the signpost.
Yeah.
It's autumn, it's Sleepy Hollow, and you have to have pumpkins.
Yeah, and the pumpkins and gourds weren't too tough to make.
Right.
They're just balls of clay.
Yeah.
The jack-o'-lantern, however, it took some doing.
Yeah.
But it's Sleepy Hollow and you need a jack-o'-lantern.
You do.
I'm editing a how-to video for our patrons, but basically, to make a hollow pumpkin, you sculpt it in 2 halves separately, and you put them together. It's a little extra work.
Yeah.
But the results can be really effective, especially when you add lighting.
It's nice. We were really trying to get this project done.
In time for Halloween.
Don't. And I know we didn't have time to add in too many extras.
No.
But I know that at some point, independent of each other, we started thinking a crow or raven on top
Yeah.
of a post would be a perfect capper for the scene.
Yeah, but we were both afraid to ask the other one to sculpt it
Yeah.
because there was 0 time. We were exhausted.
yes.
Eventually, I took the hit, and I'm glad because
Yeah.
I think it turned out pretty good.
It did.
But let's take in the whole thing.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, it actually looks pretty good.
And it's super easy to switch out the signs on the post, change them around, tweak the angles.
And for fans of that Shelley Duvall Tall Tales version,
Now this next is very important. Take a left. You got that? A left. Now last year, some poor soul took a right and gave Screaming Bob Gorge the name it bears today.
the great Charles Durning.
So good.
Now let's see how that jack-o'-lantern turned out.
All right.
For upon seeing his fellow traveler in relief against the sky, gigantic in height and muffled in a cloak, Ichabod was horror-struck to perceive that he was headless, and that he carried his head before him on his saddle. In desperation, Ichabod rained kicks upon Gunpowder.
I see you got Owen McCuen to do some voice work again.
Well, Owen always adds a little class to the production.
Yeah, he does.
I'll throw his info down below.
And I gotta say, I really like this piece.
Me too.
It's simple and it tells a story.
Yeah. And that story is of a diorama that harkens back to a time over 2 long weeks ago. The story of
Wait,
a Halloween leftover.
unbelievable.
Halloween leftovers, left over from Halloween.
Congratulations. You just made exactly 5 people happy.
I'll take it. In these challenging times, I'll take it.
We really have to start getting our Halloween projects finished before November.
And what? Disappoint those 5 people?
Maybe. I don't
Really?
know, maybe.